everybody, and welcome to the Building a Nation Treaty United recap for Season 11 of The Save. It's kind of mad to think that we're already 11 seasons in, but of course, if you do enjoy these, drop a like, lets me know you want to keep seeing them. I know a lot of people use these to catch up, so I'm glad that that's been a useful tool. Plus, I really enjoy making them, as I always say, because it gives me a chance to look back on a season of hopefully good stuff. But of course, we're live over on Twitch right now, and interestingly, weird one, bit of a milestone. It's actually my 2-year anniversary on Twitch today as well, so that's like a nice little piece of serendipity. So join over in the celebrations over on Twitch right now, as of course we're doing transfer window stuff, trying to spend some money. More on the money later. You're going to want to stick around for that, believe me. And of course, if you want to catch the VODs in full, they're over on the second channel, link in the description for that as well. Now, as always, I want to take you to our youth intake to show you the best player that we got in this year's youth intake. It's becoming a meme at this point, isn't it? And this is him. This is Craig Coffey. This was the best player in our youth intake this season. One of these days. Unfortunately, we're now in this weird situation where our board won't even let us increase our youth facilities. For some reason, we've never, for the last year and a half, I'd say, we've not had the option to ask for any youth facility upgrades. Training facilities, fine, but not youth facilities. And I know that's not the be-all and end-all, as it's more to do with the development once the players come through. But we're unfortunately kind of maxing out everything we can on that already. So the only thing we really have left to do is increase the facilities themselves, but we can't seem to do that currently. A little bit annoying, but we move. So let's move swiftly on to players that are out on loan this season, and we're starting to get that conveyor belt moving a little bit more. Still not as much as I'd like, but it's getting there. First things first, Petter Lucien Sablo is back out on loan at Skamrock for a second season in a row. This year he hasn't played as much, which is weird because he was brilliant for them last year. Disappointing that he wasn't there, which is strange. The thing is, he's only started 7 games, but he's managed 8 goals and 3 assists for them this season. Please play him, you mugs. It'd be lovely if you could. Also, he got on the next gen list while he was playing for Skamrock Rover. We had 3 players in the next gen this season, and none of them were the guy we signed from Wolves. We actually had 3 of our own players on the next gen list. It's mad, and it's so cool that it's finally happened, and weirdly, he was one of them. So it'd be cool, Skamrock Rovers, if you could play him more, or I will send him to someone else. I probably won't, just because I'm worried that no one else will take him, because you know how weird teams are about these things. Rastislav Sluka, who's a player we'll talk about in a bit, has also been out on loan this season at Sligo Rovers. Only the 1 goal for him, 4 assists, as Sligo have had a really struggle bus of a season, but he has started 11 league games for them and done okay, so that's fine, I guess. He's still like a quality player for the future, perhaps. Orlando Santamaria, another player we'll talk about in a bit, is on loan at St. Pat's Athletic, a sort of central midfielder, a Colombian we signed from America de Cali. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. 2 goals and 2 assists in the top flight, and only 7 starts. That's not bad. He only had half a season there. Is improving, which is what I like to see. That driven personality makes me happy. And you can see the rest of the players that are out on loan as well, but most of them are sort of youth players that have come through a little bit. But we're starting to build up this loan farm a little bit now. It's 11 this season. I want to start stepping it up every single year, but it is a little bit tough. A few other players I want to see out on loan as well, but it's just tough getting teams to take them. You know how it can be. Nobody will want them, even when I'm giving them quality players that would improve their team for free, with no loan fees, no wage cost, nothing. And they're just like, no, not interested. It's a shame. Hopefully we can start building that up. We had the same problem in Norway for a while. The big one, signings. And this year, I know last year was a bit of a dry spell when it comes to signings. This year has been anything but. There's been some sagas in terms of signings this year. And let's get started with it, because we've spent a lot of money. But first, a few outs that have happened over the whole season. So this isn't like immediate. This was all mid-season stuff. So Rui Fisher, £300,000 went to Al Hazem. I figured he was never really going to get any game time. He wasn't a homegrown player. Never really got much of a chance here, in fairness to him, but for 300k, I figured we could just get some money back. It was also a sad day, as Michael Sharif left us to join Bristol City. His contract was up at the end of the season anyway, and it felt like he was probably not going to get a new contract because we had other players coming through, so it felt for the right time to let him go. Bristol City came in and said, hey, we'll give you 425 grand, and I thought, yes, because that's nearly as much as we paid for him all those years ago from Crewe. He spent 5 years at the club, scored 64 goals in 124 games. Most of the last couple of seasons, he was farmed out on the left as well. Morgan Matteo went to Nantes for £82,000. He was one of those guys that I was really hoping would turn into a loan farm type of player, as he spent a lot of time on Dundalk. But unfortunately, in the end, he wouldn't go back to Dundalk on loan, and he wouldn't sign a new contract with us. So the only choice I had was to sell him for £82,000 to Nantes. He's only 10 grand a week there, so I can't blame him. And the last of the sort of big outs of players that have left is Graham Trewick. He wasn't here for very long. He basically came in, did his contract, and has now left. 250k to Brentford. It felt like the right deal at the time. We had other moves being made that felt that this was a sensible decision for us. And again, he's doubled his money. He's earning way more money at Brentford than he was here. So fair play to him. And again, he gets to play in the Championship now. So that's the sort of quality of players that we're losing. Like, players that are like average players for us are leaving to go join Championship sides and sides in League 1. We really have stepped up this year. But now, ins. I won't dwell on these guys too much because you would have already seen them briefly at the end of the last video. For firstly, Stefan Carpenu, the Romanian that came in from Cluj. What a season he's had. He may have only had like 5 assists from 32 appearances, but he is developing. He's developing spectacularly well. He was, I believe, on the next gen list as well, and he's wanted by, well, I mean, literally everybody. So that shows we've got a freaking cracking player here in Carpenter, and I want to hang on to him for as long as we can. He's still got 5 years on his contract. Sorry, 5 years. 4 years. And I think he has a clause on top of that as well. So he's going to be 5. Already has 5 Romania caps too. This is the kind of caliber of player that we've got now. But you already saw about him. We also picked up Mihai Alacu for £2.9 million. So again, I showed you him from Faron Constantinov. 41 appearances this year. 3 goals and 5 assists. But he did score a vital goal in a Champions League game for us as well, which was really, really crucial. He's still developing. He's only 20. He's got a cap for Romania as well. Fantastic player. Now, the problem with him was when he joined, we were signing him to strengthen our midfield, but he insisted as part of, the only way he would join us is if we also put a thing in there that said we were going to strengthen the midfield. You know, that absolute bullshit. Luckily, we found a way around it, which I'll explain to you later when we come to a certain signing, because there is a way around it if you ever find yourself in that annoying position where a player you're trying to sign to strengthen a position wants you to strengthen the position that you're trying to sign them in. There is a way around it, though. And of course, Kennedy also joined us, but you already know about him as well. The first of the guys you don't know about, as of course I already showed you, was Rastislav Suka, 600k from Slovan Bratislava. We were just trying to start bringing in some signings, bringing in some money, and he was the first of those. Solid player, nothing major, just thought it was worth a punt. Next up was Bastien Gauthier, who came in from Le Havre for £1.2 million. Now, at this point, what we were trying to do was sign some midfielders to mitigate that promise that we'd promised to Alacu about strengthening the midfield. Didn't work, but I still think we've got a cracking player here potentially for the future. Needs to get a loan deal, but no one will take him at the moment. And in the same breath was Orlando Santamaria. Again, £225,000 from America di Cali. I think he's not spectacular, but it was a solid piece of business for £225,000 just to keep bringing these guys through. A lot of them will count as homegrown one day as well. And again, it was another attempt to try to mitigate that promise. Again, neither of these made any difference to the promise. One final attempt in trying to fulfill that promise was signing Kevin Mackay on a loan from Hearts for the season. The only reason we really brought him in was because we needed a bit of extra depth there, and I was just desperate to try and fulfill that promise, even if a loan signing would do the trick. Believe it or not, it didn't. But this guy has a lot of meaning. This is Jonas Vasilache. He's Irish, came through at Galway United, and you might think, okay, why is he not playing for you now if you've signed him? Right, so basically, we had a theory. After all these failed attempts to appease this stupid promise about strengthening the midfield, we started to wonder if perhaps it's not even about the quality of the player you're signing. And we were right. So basically, when you get that promise, the game doesn't give a shit about the quality of the player that you sign. All it cares about is the squad status of the player. So if you find a world-beating player, but you manage to get them on a slightly lower squad status because you want to maintain squad harmony, the game doesn't care. It only wants good players if they've got good squad statuses. So we signed this random guy up on a free, put him as a star player contract. The moment he joins, promise fulfilled. Absolute nonsense, but it was the only way to get rid of it, but now we know the answer. We were just trying to figure out what actually was causing that to be that way, and now we know. It's purely on squad status, so we just released him straight afterwards, and the promise was fine. Now, it's not something I intend to use going forward, unless you find yourself in a situation where a player you're trying to sign wants you to strengthen the position that they're being signed to strengthen. I feel like that's a reasonable use of this, but in case you do run into it in your saves, that is how you do it. So, just to recap, sign a player, give them a star player contract, release them almost the moment they join, the promise will be fulfilled just like that. But there you go. Make sure they're crap, obviously, because you don't want them on high wages, so it will cost you more to release them, basically. Also picked up Alice Irvine on a free from Larne over in Northern Ireland. I want to try and get him out on loan as well at some point too, because he is being interested in loans, but only from Northern Irish clubs, which is annoying because I want him to stay in the country so we can have, well, maybe not homegrown. He could be homegrown, actually. The next player, though, is The Donut. That isn't his real name. I mistook his name when I first read it, and as a result, he's just been known as The Donut, hence the fact that he's wearing the number 88 as well. Now, he was a player that we were also potentially using to try to sort out this midfield situation, but I've been wanting this guy for ages, and it has been an absolute saga, really. He had a £2.9 million release clause, which I then triggered, but we couldn't afford to actually do the deal because there was other stuff elsewhere. So what actually happened was, when we got the news article saying that we couldn't afford the guy, you get an option to ask the board. So I did that, and I was expecting that they would either find the money or they wouldn't find the money. And I got the Club Vision thing that says find funds for new player, which was completed. Except we didn't get any more money, and what actually happened is the board took over the transfer, agreed it with money that didn't exist, and then tried to handle contract negotiations themselves, which he then turned down. I don't know why the board took over contract negotiations when I'd already agreed a contract with him, and all they had to do was pay the money or don't pay the money. But yeah, so that kind of screwed us, and it meant when we went back in on him, we were then unable to get him to talk to us for 2 months. And then PSG started circling, so we had even more problems. Because then when we went back in a second time with the installment situation, after it had failed the third time, this is the third time it had gone in, the second time for this particular thing, they then wanted more money out of nowhere. So then at one point they'd bid us up to 9 million quid on this guy, and at the end I just went no, basically no. So then we tried something different. We put a loan bid on him with a mandatory future fee of £4 million, which weirdly they went for. So now he's on loan for us for a year and a half, and then he joins us for 4 million at the end of that. And I think that 4 million is actually a fair amount for this guy. So that's fine. So the Donut has been playing for us all season. 8 goals and 4 assists from central midfield as well. Very good. He does take a couple of pens in there, but he scored all of them. He scored a couple of screamers as well. So really happy with him. You can see how this squad has definitely got better. Another guy with an international cap for Romania. 3 Romanians signing up in this window. They've got some quality this year. Seriously. But we weren't done yet, as Gavin Osborne joined us on a free transfer from Manchester United. Accepted an impact sub wage. Definitely worth having around 8 goals and 7 assists for us this season. I've always liked Gavin, and for free, can hardly say no, really, could I? And then another free transfer. This is Orlando Martins, or as we've started to call him, Florida Man, who came in on a free transfer from Man City. Basically, once Troic left, I thought, oh, there's this guy. He's quite good. Just ignore this because we've only just played a game. He's been fantastic. 4 goals for us already this season. Now, ignore some of the stats are a little bit wrong because his Champions League appearances, I don't think he could have possibly made that many Champions League appearances for us, but needless to say, 4 goals, 2 of which came in the same game as well. What a season he's had. He just puts up really good numbers as well. He's very defensively stable, just does a brilliant job at the back. So really happy to have Orlando Martins part of our back line. Him and Ankor Esteban, brilliant pairing in the back with Rakov and Milosevic. There's some really strong defenders at the club now. Makes me very happy. And for free. I mean, really, for free? And last but not least, we actually found another guy. This was a player that I noticed that I brought in on trial in the hope that maybe another Irish side would pick him up. And then we took a closer look and he was actually really good. But then Celtic put a bid in. I thought there's no way that he's going to join us over Celtic. And then he did. So this is Giovanni Tortosa, or the Tortoise, as we've been calling him, on a free from Napoli. 6'6", 16 jumping reach, 17 tackling. I mean, some of the players we've been able to pick up on free transfers this year are staggeringly good. Him and Martins have been fantastic. He's only played 11 games for us, mostly in sort of league and cup matches, but still, what a player. I wasn't able to register him for the Champions League, but he didn't even mind because he's only got a breakthrough prospect contract. Madness, some of the players we've been able to pick up this year, but really, really happy with the strengthening to the squad. And that strengthening is only going to be continuing over right now on Twitch because this team is really starting to build into something special, I feel like. So yeah, that was our transfer business. It was about £10 million in total we spent. That's the most we've ever spent in a window. I expect today will be more than that, but still, you'll see why. I'm happy with the business. I think we've really strengthened this team, and it makes it look a lot better. Domestically, again, fairly straightforward. We got off to a relatively good start, despite having a couple of draws in there. But after a while, we'd sort of pulled ourselves nice and clear. Did lose again to Shelbourne in there, but it was relatively straightforward. We did actually get another defeat, this time to St. Pat. So again, no unbeaten seasons happening for us anytime soon. Lots of good results, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. I don't want to dwell too much on the league at this point, because it is really just extremely straightforward for us, mostly barely even dropping points at times. I think we went through one stream where we didn't lose a single game. Or in fact, I don't think we did anything other than win at one point, because that's how much the league is just on absolute autopilot. Won all the cups, as far as I know. League Cup. Yeah, won the League Cup, won the League, won the Cup, won the Irish Champions Cup, won the President's Trophy, 5 trophies as always for the guys. Ended up with a final league standing of 92 points, 21 clear of Bohemian, but you'll notice Bohemian are 18 points clear of Dundalk. What a season they had. They overperformed a little bit, but at one point they were even further clear. They didn't win any of their final 5 games. But the good news is, with them, Dundalk, and Skamrock Rovers, and St. Pat's in Europe, that's kind of what I wanted out of this season. They're sort of our 3 strongest teams other than ourselves, and if we can consistently get those guys into Europe over and over, that would be helpful. It's crazy that Dundalk had a neutral goal difference and all that. Shelbourne eventually ended up getting relegated as Drogheda and Waterford stay up as well. Mura with the 9 assists in the league. Emmett Doran with 23 goals makes him top scorer in the league. It's nice to see Emmett back on the top scoring charts domestically, as he still has struggled overall to meet those numbers that he got originally when he joined the club, but he's still a fantastic striker, and I don't think it's time for moving him on anytime soon. But I do wonder if the numbers keep dropping year after year, if there is going to come a time when we do have to look for another striker. But right now, ED7 is still the man. And Bart also got 21 clean sheets in 36 games, except he didn't even play all 36 games. His record this year is staggeringly good. But what I do want to show you is that we've switched tactics a little bit this season. I was building a sort of secondary tactic last year, and this year we implemented it with a bit more gusto, and we've made quite a lot of serious changes to it, in the sense that now we're running with in-5 forwards on both sides. The idea behind that was really to get more of an overlap on this side, because our winger and our wing-back, weren't doing great. But we've also moved to wing-backs and ball-playing defenders, and Martins has flourished in that role. It's made them really, really solid. Also, I think we might have been doing this already, but now sweeper-keeper support. And in addition to that, we now have a centre mid on attack here, and that's really where the Donut and Osborne have managed to generate a lot more goals for us this year. So again, happy days for those guys. But it's not really changed anything about the actual instructions itself, more just the actual formation, the positions within it, really. But we'll talk more about the players specifically in a little bit. Cork, finally out of the second tier. It's taken them 11 years to get promoted, and they nearly bottled it at one point, but they did in fact manage to do it. Bray kind of screwed it up towards the end, so Cork City will be back in the top flight, and I think they could stay there. I think they could have a good year. They've got a good team, good academy. I think if they stay there, they could be the sort of team that could actually build into one of the teams that could be brilliant for us at a later stage in this save. So it's great to finally have them out of this division. Athlone Town, poor year. But now, Europe. Now, as I'm sure you remember last time, we got PSG in our Champions League knockout, sadly. But in the home game, we actually did ourselves proud. A 4-2 defeat with 2 goals scored. Alaku and Doran scoring. We even got a red card in this and still scored afterwards. We looked like we were dead and buried after half an hour with, David Oliver, Haaland, Wirtz and Pino getting goals in there. But we really did start to push back at them. And if it wasn't for that late goal from Pino, we'd have been in with a chance maybe. We weren't, really. Because in the second leg, we went and lost 5-0 and Erling Haaland scored 4 times because it's PSG. But actually only to lose 9-2 to them on this aggregate tie was quite surprising. I was amazed that we scored a goal at all. So to score twice in that home leg was pretty impressive from the guys, so happy with that. We weren't expecting to go much further anyway. But then the Champions League came back around again, and we beat Honka 4-0. Doran, Millie, Bayrak getting the goals. Bayrak's had a really good season this year. And then in the second leg, 2-0 again with Doran and Kevin Mackay scoring comfortably through. And again, things were pretty straightforward. We drew Cluj after that, 2-0 win away from home. Alaku and Doran scored again. And then back at home, Doran grabbed another brace, Millie grabbed a goal, Matish got on back for them, but it wasn't enough, and we were through again. Where we drew Pauk, who of course we'd knocked out of the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, and we smashed them 6-1 in the first game, with Doran, a brace for Martins, Osborne, Mayeni, Kano on there too, Sponic, who of course has tormented me on other saves, got one for them of course. And then we went to Greece and won 1-0. Martin scored again in that one. He actually got 3 goals against Pauk over the course of this season, and of course one for Gavin Osborne too, into the playoff round. And it could not have been more straightforward. A stroll into the group stages this year, easy as pie. Mayeni, 2 for Doran, 1 for the Donut, and a 4-0 victory in Sweden basically put them out of it without a chance. And then back in Ireland, a hat-trick from Moses Mayeni inside 11 minutes basically sunk them. Doran got one as well. They did get one back, but 8-1 was our margin of victory to get into the Champions League groups. And this time, we got ourselves quite a plum group. Last time around was a toughie, but we had a chance. This time felt even better because we got Celtic again, Manchester United, toughie, and FC Copenhagen of Denmark, which means I really did feel like third was very much the minimum to expect this year. In other piece of Champions League news, Breidablik of Iceland qualified for the Champions League group stages by knocking Ajax out on penalties in the playoff round. They got hammered in their group, of course, but they did score against Man City before conceding like 5. But nevertheless, they knocked Ajax out of the playoff round. So what a result for Iceland. Whoever's doing Building a Nation Iceland is doing a terrific job. Sadly, though, it didn't start off that well, as we absolutely smashed FC Copenhagen away from home in Denmark and only got a 1-1 draw with a late Moses Mayeni penalty. Disappointing times. Luckily, though, we were able to pick things up again. Celtic got a red card with Chavez, and Gavin Osborne's late winner gave us a huge win, and it gave us 4 points on the board straight off the bat, and really exactly what we wanted. 6 would have been better, but 4 at that point was crucial. Sadly, it wasn't to be, though, as we did lose 4-1 at home to Manchester United. Cenk Bayrak got us a late one. This game was a lot closer than the scoreline would suggest, but it is what it is. We weren't expecting to win. And then we actually put in quite a strong performance away at Old Trafford, only losing 2-0 with Bruno Fernandes, 37-year-old Bruno Fernandes, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka scoring the goals. We weren't expected to beat United, so we kind of got what we thought we'd get, although Celtic did take a draw against them annoyingly. But then another really close game in the sense that the scoreline was close, but once again, the stats really, really weren't. Millie and Carlo Mura getting the goals to allow us to beat FC Copenhagen and guarantee ourselves third spot in the group, knowing that if we just took a draw against Celtic at Celtic Park, we could qualify out of our Champions League group for the 2nd consecutive season, and also at Celtic's expense for the 2nd consecutive season. And that didn't happen. We were behind inside the first minute through Alan Velasco, and then Elias Hoff Melkerson got one before half-time to make it 2-0. We just didn't really turn up in this one. We were fortunate to get the draw we got against Celtic last year, I think, and it kind of came around to roost this time. In addition, Bart Verbruggen was injured for this game, so Oren McGowan had to play, and he just didn't get near anything, unfortunately. So we had to settle for 3rd in the end. But still, same number of points in our group as last year. I think we were unlucky not to have more. I think we could have beaten FC Copenhagen in the away game and got closer to 9, which would have been good for coefficient. But nevertheless, it means we qualify for the Europa League after Christmas. And of all the ties we could have got, we ended up facing Atalanta. I would say arguably the toughest draw we could have had of any team we could have faced in that knockout round, Atalanta. And I think we'll really struggle to get past them. And it's a shame because there was so many teams in there that we could have played and comfortably beaten, but we've got a bit screwed on that one. And what was looking like a good season could end up being a little bit of a disappointment European-wise based on that alone. But if we do go past Atalanta, there's a lot of teams that are playing against each other that I feel like we're capable of beating. So if we do get through, I think there's a real shot at another quarter-final, but it's going to take some mad effort to try and get past that. But as a result of all this, we've got new transfer budget, of course, because more more Champions League money means more transfer budget. And that's why our transfer budget is, well, it's £22.5 million with £182,000 of wage budget. We've got an insane amount of money, basically. And you might notice there's a few extra guys being signed up here, but I'll talk about those on the next season's one. We've already started doing a little bit of shopping preemptively, but my goodness me, we have a buttload of money to spend. Whether we'll be able to do it or not, but I still think we're going to be picking up a lot of... Now's the time to really build that youth conveyor belt, because we can just keep picking up players for like 1 million, 2 million now. We could sign like 10 guys during this window to really pack out the youth teams and build this conveyor belt going forward, and I'm excited. And that's what we're hopefully doing right now. I wonder if I've pressed continue yet. As for the main men of the team, of course, Emmett Doran this season, 40 goals. Definitely a downward step. Again, he's had 65, 55, 52, 40. Still got double figures in the Champions League. So big credit to Emmett for that. And it's not technically over yet because he's got potential chance against Atalanta. But I can feel a slight fade occurring with Emmett. And it does worry me. Luckily, we've got other players coming through, of course. But I don't know. I felt like we maybe could have got more out of him. He's still got 94 and 91 in the league. And he's got over 200 goals for us so far. So ED7 will always live in our hearts. Still had a good year, though. Millie's had a slight downward step, I'd say, this year. The biggest problem with Millie this year has been his inability to finish chances. 23 goals and 18 assists. So a bit less on the assists and much less, well, not much less on goals, but less than he should. He had an XG of 29 and has underachieved it by 6 goals, which is staggeringly bad. And I think that the finishing has been the biggest problem. Imagine finishing being a problem on FM22. It really does. Even if you got good finishing, though, it doesn't guarantee much, as we know. But still, I think that's a bit of an issue. Missed 3 pens as well, which didn't help. But still, good year for him. But I would like to find an inside forward on the left that's got finishing ability too, because everything else he's brilliant. But if this was like double, it'd be nice. Mayani, of course, from the right, 19 goals and 14 assists from the right-hand side. It's mostly where he's played. He's already got 22 caps for South Africa and 12 goals as well. Brilliant player. He might end up moving into the middle if Emmett Doran does start to fade, but he's still a cracking player for us and has, again, had a beautiful season, mostly off the right-hand side too. He's only played 4 games at striker this season, so he scored 16 goals and 15 assists from the right-hand side. Milosevic is definitely moving in the right direction, I would say. His heading's now up to 10. He's getting there. 33 appearances for the club this season. Didn't perform particularly well in the Champions League, but I still think there's a quality player here. I don't know if it's maybe long-term he's going to be the best for us, but he's still done a good job for now. Still had big clubs circling for him in the windows, though. Howcroft, another solid season for him. Surprisingly, only started 13 games, still got 9 goals and 9 assists. Carlo Moura, another guy that doesn't really play all that much, still managed to bang 11 goals and 17 assists this season. I think I underrate Moura more than I should do, to be honest, because he can play inside forward on both sides, and I do wonder if there's a place for him in the team more often next year. Rakov's still knocking about. Just such a solid defender. It's crazy how good he is. And also, Cenk Bayrak. 20 goals this season for Cenk Bayrak, the young German. He finally started getting a game time, basically. He was always my first choice rotation striker. Whenever he had to rotate for a game, Bayrak started. 16 starts this year, 20 goals. Phenomenal. Admittedly, only 4 in the league. 2 in the Champions League, though, which off the bench. It was the 12 goals he got in the 4 cup matches that really did set him aside. But he definitely did start to come into his own more towards the end of the season. And I was very, very happy with his output. And I'm hoping he can continue to do that and start to develop a little bit more. Maybe someone will take him on loan. I don't know. But I still think there's a beautiful striker under here if he could just get the chance. And he's 6'6". Another notable mention, of course, for Sinisa Stojanovic. 7 assists this season, 2 goals. Not quite as many as last year, but he is just developing at a rate of knots now and is being wanted by basically all the big sides in the world as well. So another cracking signing. Our fullback situation is very much stacked at the moment, and I'm very happy with it. So, other Irish sides in Europe. Now, I'm used to showing you abject failure at this point, but this year, there were some bright spots for once. Derry City sadly went out to Charleroi in the end, which is a shame, but they did get a point. They did get a draw there, which is good for coefficient, and sadly, Skamrock Rovers were also knocked out by Sturmgrass, but again, did get a draw in one of the matches, which is nice. They've got some really bad draws lately. There's some good sides in this competition, and we just seem to always meet them, sadly. Luckily, though, Dundalk put to bed Radnik Abelja really easily and progressed to the 3rd round at least. But it was in that 3rd round where they actually surprised us by beating Osijek of Croatia on penalties in the end, which was staggeringly good. Really happy for them to progress to the playoff round of the Europa Conference League. It's the first time a team of ours has made it that far for a while now, and we really needed it this year. Next year is going to be really crucial, but this year was super important too. And then, inexplicably, they went one step further by beating Legia Warszawa 5-3 on aggregate to get into the group stages of the Conference League. We could not believe it that they'd managed to beat them in both legs. Incredibly. I think they beat them in both legs. Yeah, they did. I think it was 3-2 and 2-1. Fantastic performances from Dundalk to get to the group stages. So happy for them. The money's helpful and coefficient. Unfortunately, though, the group stages did not go well for them. I was hoping when I saw the group that they might be able to get a point or 2 in there. They didn't. Lost every single match. Only with a -9 goal difference in the end. They never lost by more than 2 goals. They lost 2-0 3 times and 1-0 3 times. Didn't score a single goal, though. And I was hoping they could have scraped something. It feels like they might have been a bit unlucky to get as few points as they did. And I was kind of hoping once they got there, 6 chances to get points. You never know, but yeah, it was not to be in the end. And inexplicably, even as a result of Dundalk getting into the group stages as well, somehow we're on less points than we were last year. And I think it's because you get a bump if you do get through the Champions League group stages. And that might be the thing we're missing at the moment. We're still a step up from last year. or from the year we're losing. So we are still gaining points this season, just perhaps not at the rate that we were kind of hoping that we would be. But you never know. If we were to get past Atalanta and go deep into the Europa League, there's maybe a chance that we could get towards 6. I was kind of hoping that this could be a 6.5 point season. Turns out that's not going to be the case, but it does feel like there's a steady upward trajectory now. Almost every year is a little bit better than the previous one for the most part, with the exception of this one year. But the cool thing is this is the year we're losing next year. So if we could go and put down like a 6 or a 7 point season next year, that's a massive step towards the 30 point mark that we'd be making. However, and this is the problem at the moment, we could get overtaken by a few teams. Both Serbia and Croatia are losing really bad years and replacing them with really good years, which means they could actually end up leapfrogging us and we could lose places despite that. But sometimes you do have to take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward, and I think next year is really going to be that step forward. However, it's not by much that they're in front of us, really. Serbia's a bit far in front, but you never know. If we were to go deep into the Europa League, there is still a chance that we could maybe push that back and stay above them. It doesn't really mean a lot at the moment. It's 17th where the next actual goal is, and really, we're not that far off if we can have a couple more good years. And we're still developing ourselves. That's the key thing. There's a lot more ceiling just for Treaty United alone before the other teams really have to start mattering. But they are at least starting to show signs that they could, with the right draws, or even when they don't get the right draws, start making some progress. But having another team in the group stage is just a nice change. I think it's been 5 years since we had any other team in Europe with us properly. So that's nice. Hopefully we can do that again a couple of years and start to try to get them later and later in. But also, if we do get to the position where there's more European places and they start further up, it means there's more room for them to drop down potentially into things like the Conference League. So that in a way is going to give them more chances to potentially pick up results, and that's going to, I think, really do us a big favour. 15th is going to be so important for that for me, and I don't think we're that far off of it really. And ironically, Norway are one of the teams that are right around that point themselves, but they're having a good year, sadly. So there we go. And the other good piece of news, I didn't even mention this, we got 3-star reputation. So after 11 seasons, we've worked our way up to 3-star rep. The league is still improving. We're now considered on par with like the second Bundesliga in Germany in terms of a league reputation as well. So that just needs to steadily but surely continue to improve over time, and that will hopefully help the other teams attract players as well. I think there's definitely stable signs. I know it's taken 11 years, but we always knew it was going to be tough coming to Treaty to do this compared to someone like Norway because the infrastructure isn't there. But I still believe it can be done, and I'm fully in this for the long haul and see how far we can bloody go with it. So, if you enjoyed this, drop a like. That'd be gorgeous. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. That'd be sick as well. Of course, we're streaming this live right now, trying to spend some of that money with our newfound reputation, and of course having a nice time celebrating 2 years on Twitch. So I'll see you guys soon. Hold your gun, capybara. Bye bye.